Hi everyone, I've come up with a 10-point plan to get more houses built in the UK. I'm sick to death of every housing minister. We've had 14, I think, housing ministers in something like 12 years. I've spoken to one or two of them, I've met one or two of them. They never take my advice or anybody else's advice, by the way, who knows what they're doing. So here it is. I'm going to give you the 10 points and perhaps you can then tell your local MP to get on with it. So here we go. First of all, we need to reduce the community infrastructure levy and the social housing requirements, because what that is doing is restricting and stopping developers like myself from developing in certain areas. So let's take the social housing first of all. Social housing is on over 1,000 square metres. If you build over 1,000 square metres or 10 units, then you've got a social housing requirement. This requirement at the moment is negotiable. So if you're not making 20%, you can reduce it. Under the new Labour government, if we have a Labour government, which is looking like we are, there will not be negotiable anymore. And some areas up to 50% social housing. So that really stops, especially the smaller developer, actually getting on and developing anything. And the other issue is the community infrastructure levy called the SIL. Again, now this is not negotiable at the moment, and it's probably between 110 and £200 a square metre on any new build. Or, and this is what people forget sometimes, if a building has been empty for 3 years and you want to convert it, there is the SIL levies on that as well, which is absolutely bonkers, because you think you want to encourage people to take vacant properties and turn them into homes, not try and restrict people from doing it. So that all needs to be looked at properly and reduced or got away with. Grants on brownfield sites. So these are sites, number two, these are sites that have perhaps had a petrol station on them or an office block on them, and I've knocked a number of those down and developed them. But it's very, very difficult because you've got archaeological digs, you've got to check that the ground conditions are okay, you've got demolition, you've got asbestos to get rid of, and it makes these brownfield sites unaffordable, and people will not take the risk. So the government needs to step up and make grants available in order to get brownfield development off the ground properly and get it done. Get it done. Number three, income tax reduction to live up north. Now, this is very controversial, I know, but there's too many people living down south and there's bags of space up north. And there's not really a housing shortage up north either in certain areas. So come on, we need to get people to move from the south to the north. The only way you're going to do that is with money, tax incentives. At the end of the day, that's what counts. Money in people's pocket, whatever anybody else might think, in my view, all the NIMBYs and the people who basically think the best of everyone. At the end of the day, money in their pocket counts. We also need to put tax incentives on builders to build in less popular areas, because it's no good just building where everyone wants to live. It's very popular and be very, very expensive. We need to somehow encourage and this is really all to do with small house builders, building in cheaper areas where sometimes financially it doesn't work because the build cost is almost the same. We need to try and encourage builders to build in cheaper areas. Regeneration grants, turning areas of deprivation into places where people want to live. This is more probably for the bigger house builders, number 5, but very important. In the 1980s, Toxteth in Liverpool got a huge boost by the Conservative government. Michael Heseltine was involved in it and created regeneration grants. We need to be doing that again all over the country in areas where there's deprivation. We need to turn these areas round, and the only way we do it again is funding from the government. Number 6, reassess Greenbelt. Well, if Labour get in, they've promised to do this. It should have been done years ago. Greenbelt goes back to 1936 in London, and outside London 1947, and it's crazy. It's well out of date. So you've got areas that should be in Greenbelt that aren't, and you've got areas in Greenbelt that shouldn't be. I've been involved in a couple of sites which were in Greenbelt but we're actually right next to rubbish tips. How can that be right? Absolutely bonkers. This government won't do anything about it. I think the new Labour government will. Special tax incentives for small developers to build to rent. Why, oh why, haven't we done that already? Or also incentives for current landlords to remain landlords and not sell up. In Ireland, that's exactly what they've done now. They've given landlords tax incentives. The longer they keep their property, the better tax incentives they get. That's what we need to do in the UK. We really need to use the tax system to support small builders and small to medium-sized landlords. Landlords should be incentivised, also number 8, to convert houses into flats, because you can house more people in flats than you can a single house. It's not rocket science. We need to generate and find more accommodation. Very, very important. Number 9, this won't go down with my farming friends. Only allow farms to sell land at 10 times the value of it is for agricultural purposes. So 10 times agricultural value. So most agricultural value of land is say 10,000 an acre. So they've got 100,000. That's 10 times, surely 10 times is enough for anyone, isn't it? Profit? 10 times. At the moment, some of them are getting 50, 100 times. And they're not paying tax because they're rolling it over into another business. Totally, utterly crackers. We need to get more land developed, and we need to force certain farmers to sell at much more sensible levels. Hugely important. And the 10th thing is we need to be able to compulsory purchase land. The last large town that was built in the UK was Milton Keynes, and that was built on land that was compulsory purchased from farmers at agricultural value. Not even 10 times. I've been too generous by the sound of things. Now, the Labour government are talking about doing that. Whether they're brave enough to do it, and CPOing as it's called, compulsory purchase order on buildings and land, is difficult to do. Lots of challenges on it, but the government could do it if they're minded to. So there's 10 points there. I'm sure you can think of another 10. I could probably if I sat down long enough. But we need to do something, and we need to do something radical. And I know some of you will say, well, all these points, John, are all to do with the government handing out grants to developers, greedy developers, people who perhaps earn a lot of money already. Well, you know what? If you want anything done, and you want things driven forward, then investors and developers who are willing to take a risk, willing to put their backside on the line, as it were, they're the people that should benefit, because in the end, we all benefit. Every person who purchases a house, every first-time buyer will have a much better opportunity of purchasing if these 10 points are taken up. So, if you agree with me or don't agree with me, do I care? Well, I do care, to be honest with you, because I think it's important to have have discussions with people. So, you can contact me at johnhowardproperty.com. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Twitter or Instagram. And if you're really keen, you can always come on one of my property seminars. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye.